Hello, I'm Barb Smith.
And I'm Scott Wilkinson.
In this presentation, you are going to see some examples of how writing exercises and group work can help students take responsibility for their learning. The examples are from Sister Susan Hoover's early morning seminary class.
Also, I had the opportunity to interview Rob Elsey, a release-time seminary teacher, about the purpose of writing exercises and group work. Let's begin with his interview. Could you explain a little bit about how writing exercises and group work facilitate religious education?
Yes, when a teacher invites students to participate through writing their thoughts or feelings or discoveries, or through working in a group to do those same sort of things, it allows a student to take personal responsibility for their learning, to be engaged in that learning process more personally. And I've often thought in Section 88, it teaches that when all have spoken, all may be edified of all.
Today we're going to be in Doctrine and Covenants, Section 1 and Section 133. And what we're going to be doing is that we are going to be creating a newspaper article. And you're going to be in groups. The newspaper is entitled Latter-day Times. And you're going to be reading your sections. Now I want you to read them. There's quite a lot of reading, but I want you to read them individually and glean the information from it. Your assignments are here. Now remember to include in your article a headline. Are there any questions? Okay, let's get into our groups. We'll have you three, and Andre, you can go with them. The four here.
Why do you think so many teachers are afraid to do group work?
Oftentimes they can get unwieldy, they can get out of hand. My suggestion to teachers is if there's a handful or more in groups, it's a handful. If you can have students in groups of 4 or smaller, that helps. Also, if you can give them specific assignments, even before they gather into a group, they search for some information, begin to understand it, and then come together and share.
Today we're going to be working on scripture mastery. I'm going to be dividing you into small groups so that you can work on a scripture. And what I want you to do is look for the main theme or principle of this scripture. Then I want you to come up with a short little 5 or 10 word jingle that will help the rest of us remember your scripture. Are there any questions? Okay. You two work together. You two. Lauren, you want to turn your chair around, work with Jennifer?
Should a teacher set time limits?
Most definitely. This seems to be one of the reasons why teachers resist group work, because it can take a lot of time if there isn't some specific time limits given. Not only when the whole activity should be completed, but intervals along the way when this part of the activity should be done and that part, and when you'll report and so on.
Today we're going to do an activity of some important events in church history. And I've given you each a grease board, and I'm going to be passing out your assignments. Now you're each going to have a different event. What I want you to do is to draw the event that took place in church history so that you can share it with the group. Look for details, things that might be interesting that go along with your picture. Are there any questions? Okay, red, our red group? Right here. Here. Okay, green.
What should the teacher be doing while the students are doing the writing exercises or some of the group work?
Good question. A teacher that moves around the class, going from group to group, sometimes even participating in the group, can both cause the students to realize someone's there and overseeing, but also can help to prod things along, help give direction.
Okay, you've done a great job. I can see you've been working really hard with your drawings. So we'll have you report your events in history. Okay, we'll start over here, the blue group.
Okay, ours is the Battle of the Crooked River, and Missourians captured some of the Saints.
They captured 2 men and a little boy.
And so the Saints organized a militia to go and attack, and they met at the Crooked River, and they started shooting each other, and a couple Missourians were killed, and
Elder David W. Patton was the first martyr of this dispensation. He was the first one killed. And Brother Gideon Carter was also killed. A lot of stuff was really over-exaggerated, like we were shooting people, and that's how they came up with the extermination order for the Mormons.
It's one thing to have the Spirit witness that what you're hearing when another is teaching is true. It's quite another to have the Spirit witness that what you're sharing or testifying is true.
President Joseph Smith came in and found that they had nothing. And so he ordered them to gather everything they had They had about 70 wagons all together, and they took off and went out to Far West.
Good job. Okay, our last group. Fourth.
Okay, we did the Hans Mill massacre, and at the Hans Mill massacre, there was a group of saints traveling to Far West, and like the first day at Hans Mill, as they were resting to prepare for the 12-mile journey to Far West, a militia of 240 men came, and as the saints were out doing their normal day's work, such as tending to their children and doing their normal chores, they came and they gathered into the blacksmith shop, and they were going to use it as a refuge and a fort. But
I found that when they have that opportunity to express through writing or in groups with one another, that there's a different sort of witnessing that can take place to them because they're more intimately, more personally involved in that process of learning.
How do you think the early saints felt about what was going on? Ryan.
okay, I think it was like a real trial of faith, and maybe like all their trials actually strengthened them over time.
You're right, it did strengthen them. Some of them left because it tore them apart, but others were strengthened through these trials. Any other comments?
What would you say to teachers that would encourage them to do group work?
There are times in my classes where I've seen students share. There's a discussion going on where a peer is speaking with a peer, and the Spirit's reinforcing that. That's something I could never provide without group work.
Well, as you can see, effective group work works. It provides an opportunity for every student to participate.
Like anything else, the more you use writing exercises and group work with your classes, the more effective you will become.
Take some time now to prepare a writing exercise, a group work activity, or both for an upcoming scripture block.